As promised, we are now joined by our guest, the newly elected selectman here in town, Matt Borrelli.
And local celebrity.
Local
Thank
celebrity.
you. How are you? Nice to
Welcome.
be here. Thank you.
When was the last time that you were congratulated? Are you still considered to be newly elected?
I think so. I was congratulated probably before I went into a meeting last week.
So,
Someone just said, I voted for you. It's a nice feeling. And I said, thank you. I appreciate it.
How
Yeah.
long has it been since?
It's been April, so yeah, 3 months.
3 months?
Settling in nicely.
Yeah, settling in nice. We've had a bunch of meetings. We had town meeting we had to go through, so kind of hit the ground running. It's been great.
I was at that town meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Great job.
I've got two local celebrities here.
That's
Jeez.
right.
That's right. Oh, Ryan, stop. Come on,
That's right.
enough of this. So it's great to have you in studio. Obviously, you have a lot of background with real estate in Needham, in addition to your budding political career.
Sure.
Can we talk a little bit about kind of the real estate market and how it pertains to some things that you've been doing in your newest role?
Yeah, I think we look at the real estate market as pretty much constant. It's really helped on a couple levels in Needham. With the assessed values, with the tax revenue, we've really benefited as far as the budget goes. So when I was on the finance committee, would count on the revenues, would be able to predict kind of a consistent real estate market when we're putting together the budget. So in that way, it's been great. But moving forward, we're starting to look into how we can make the process better as far as the building department is concerned, and if we can make any changes to the zoning in Needham, slight changes. We don't have all the answers, but maybe to help with some of these tear down issues that neighbors have. It's a balancing act between the value of a home, the neighborhoods, and the builder. And me being a builder and all of us, we want to protect all of the interests. So that's where we're going with it. It's the first crack at it. We're going to work with the planning board and see if there are any things that can be done to kind of make sure the process is good and that we have a good package that we're giving to the citizens of Needham.
The newly appointed, newly hired building inspector, Dave Roach, in an article in Needham Times mentioned the possibility of maybe a committee or a panel of local builders. Right. How do Rob and I get on that panel?
Apply. All you have to do is apply. Consider this maybe your application. We'll put a
what types of? I mean, what do you know about that?
Sure.
And what can we expect to see out of that in the future?
I haven't talked to him specifically about that panel. I think it's a terrific idea. I know we've done it. For example, when we looked at the stretch energy code, we had a committee get together of architects, of builders, of interested people in the community, and they were able to talk through some of these issues. I see this panel the same thing, where you have interested builders, maybe some residents, people on the planning board, maybe the zoning board, maybe a member of the Board of Selectmen, obviously the building inspector, get together and kind of come up with ideas that, it has to be a balance. We can't have it prohibitive to the builder, prohibitive to the person who's trying to sell their house and move on. So I think it's a good idea to get people together, go through the ideas. Zoning, I've heard a lot during my election and being in the town that there's some inconsistencies or interpretations that are left open. And I think this panel is going to really address how can we go through the zoning, get it ready for town meeting, and tell people what needs to be changed to make sure that it lives up to what it was intended to live up to.
And one of the things I read in the Needham Times was some of that had to do with the setbacks and
Right.
changing the setbacks or maybe altering kind of how that's defined. Talk about that a little bit.
Right. In Needham, the setbacks were for the past 15, 20 years.
And it's the setbacks for new construction
for new
as far as how far
construction.
you can build from the property.
That's right, exactly right.
Okay.
And that was governed by the furthest part of your house, for example, an overhang or a gutter, something to that nature. It's hard, especially as you know, when you have a finished product, to number one, come up with that number, and then also have kind of a consistent benchmark for that number. So what I've heard from the building inspector is he wants to, I'm not speaking for him, but in talking to him and seeing it in the paper, but he wants to have more of a consistent number, which is typically the foundation for new construction, where you can actually go and measure it off a solid piece of concrete that's not going to move and get your setback from that number.
But and before the house is actually built, you know what that number is.
That
once the
exactly right,
foundation goes in.
exactly. And there are no issues as it goes further along. And there've been some issues in the past in Needham where things have had to be removed because it no longer, as the foundation setback worked out well, but it no longer complies because of the overhangs in the house. So I think it's not as arbitrary that way. It's better.
There's much less geometry involved.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly, exactly, and much better for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then another thing that he had talked about, or maybe that we had talked about,
Sure.
was that there's a lot of people living in homes right now that are in historical homes in Needham. I mean, hundreds of years old. is a buyer going to build my house, not going to build it? What does that mean? Can they knock it down? So I believe now the waiting game, correct me if I'm wrong, is 6 months you have to knock a house down that's part of the historical commission?
Right, so right now, the way the bylaw is written is if a house is on the historical register in Needham, and the historical commission, they do it, I think, every year. They reach out to people whose homes they think are historical value, and they say, will you come on and be on the historical register for Needham? And if you do, you get a background or history of your house, and they send you a pamphlet. Those are the houses currently protected under the zoning bylaw. Under one of the goals of the Board of Selectmen, we're looking to see if a house-by-house basis, any house over a certain amount of years will automatically get some protection, even if you're not listed with that historical register, so to speak. So it protects some of the older homes in Needham potentially. It's something we've floated, other towns do it, but it is in the goals for this year to see if we can come up with something to protect some of the older homes in Needham that didn't voluntarily go on to the historic register.
But just because a house is historical, any house can be torn down.
Right.
Correct?
That's
you have to
right.
wait that much longer.
Exactly. It'll be a 6-month demolition delay. So they have to wait 6 months before they demo it, and there typically is a good faith effort to list that, see if someone wants to actually move that house.
So physically take that house and take it to another location.
Right,
whether it
and
be
do something
in Needham,
with it.
in another
Right.
part of the state, anywhere.
Or make an offer and not tear it down. There are ways. Every demolition delay bylaw is different, but that's what other towns do, and that's what currently we do. This would still have that 6-month waiting period, but it would encompass more homes, and have the historical commission potentially look at a home and say, even though this isn't on the register, this was built in 1834, and Kingsbury owned this house. We think it has some historical significance. It gives a little more latitude for not taking these houses down that are historical.
Yeah, I think just from a developer's perspective, and you touched on it a little earlier, the key is consistency. Right. It's coming up with a set of bylaws, some zoning parameters that are agreed upon that the town supports, and then a universal interpretation of them that's consistently applied from house to house.
Yes, absolutely. I think consistency, as you know, it drives the market.
Yeah.
People know what they're getting. They know, and it even helps, like your segment earlier, it helps with the selling price, right? It helps with the buying. You know what you're getting. You know that you're going to be treated like the person was treated down the street. Yeah. And it gives everyone that comfort feeling that they have an investment they're investing in, they can do something with it. So it's it's an important aspect of zoning.
And we know that some of the kind of buzzwords with regards to, no pun intended.
Whose phone is that?
I think that's the alarm that this is going to be a great question.
Yeah, that's good.
Everybody stay tuned.
Yeah, so this is the,
There's been a lot of talk of stretch code has been one thing that seems to get kind of bantied about when people talk about building in Needham, and it's like something like that going to happen in Needham. Also, lot coverage ratios and things like that make it maybe a little more difficult for builders to build something new. None of us have a crystal ball, but 5 years from now, where do you see the building environment in Needham as compared to it is now?
Well, as far as the stretch code, and I've opposed the stretch code, and when you build a house in Needham using the prescriptive method, it gets pretty close, and a lot of people, including myself, build over what the stretch code requires. So I was glad to see the town meeting actually sent that back for further study. To this date, there's really been no further study on it. We have had reports in the town saying how energy efficient our buildings are in town, our municipal buildings, which factored into that whole discussion. So we're in good shape as a town as far as energy efficiency, without, how I feel, that need of bureaucracy. And as things get tighter and as the codes go on, we're going to see even more energy efficiency on the state level that we'll need to comply with. So I think I see as far as Needham's concerned, we're going to continue that type of energy efficiency building.
And even just, looking at homes that were built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, even if they've had upgrades to them, new windows put in, a new roof, if they've had blown in insulation in the attic, I mean, they're still not anywhere near as energy efficient as a new home that's built that doesn't incorporate the stretch code, but just the normal prescriptive building methods that we use. The energy efficiency is so far superior in these new homes versus the homes that were built a generation ago.
Yeah, there's nothing like new construction, I would say. There really isn't.
Well done new construction.
Well done new construction.
Yeah.
As far as lot coverage and floor area ratios, I think that's something the town is going to be looking at. or questioning maybe on that panel if that is a way that we should go in order to see if we can alleviate some of these concerns with tear downs. I don't know where we're going to go with that, but again, it's one of the pieces that we'll be discussing, I think, going forward the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Okay, that sounds great. Any other questions? I mean, you seem to be pretty knowledgeable yourself. Do you want to be a guest on the show?
I'd love to sit in that chair. That'd be fun.
Well, if we weren't strapped in with our mics.
Well, town meeting, Abe, next April, there's an election.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll see.
My spot will be open. If people see you around town, do you encourage them to come up and say hello?
Yeah, always come up and say hello. They can call me at my home number. That's 449-8391. They can visit my website.
Let's get that number again. I
Yeah,
like to give
sure, you
that
like it twice. 449-8391, that's my home number.
He
They
does
can-
prefer to be called Mr. Selectman.
Yeah, you can always email me through the town website. It's a great way to keep in touch, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to represent the people of Needham. So.
And be a friend of the show.
Absolutely, anytime.
Once a
This
guest,
is-
always welcome.
Yes,
That's
and this
true.
is a great show. You do a great service to the town.
Thanks.
So
Well, thank you. For Mr. Selectman, as well as Ryan, I'm Rob Tickton. That does it for this month's episode of What's My House Worth? I almost forgot the name of it.
See you next month.
See you next month.